Alright folks, how are we doing? It's Shabash, it's Hero of Aethric, and this is my class guide as part of my beginner series. And first things first, if you are making a new character, make sure you use this promo code ORNS, all caps, no spaces. It gets you an extra 2,500 ORNs to start the game. Very, very nice. That's a second class paid for. Now, the class system in Orna is, Hero of Aethric. Well, it's the same as Orna, obviously. We start off, you select Warrior, Mage, and Thief. And those are the three base class archetypes, if you like, that we start the game on. And it's very nice, very classical RPG system. Go through the game and it develops on these three. But later on, we will have access to pretty much three other class lines, if you like. So I would recommend just start off the game with your preferred archetype, Mage, Warrior, Thief, and then we'll go through how we upgrade our classes, what specializations we're going to look at, and as you level up, what other archetypes are available in Hero of Aethric. Once we're in the game, you can check your class by going in your character menu, click on your character, and then change class. And the overall most important thing to note when you are upgrading your classes, basically when you reach a new tier, you will have the option to unlock new classes. Every tier is every 25 levels. So when you start off at tier 1, once you reach level 25, you reach tier 2. Once you reach level 50, you reach tier 3, etc., all the way up to level 225, which is tier 10. There is a tier 11, but there's not actually any additional classes available. Tier 11 is level 250, which is the maximum level currently in the game. But there are other endgame ways to increase the power of your character with ascension levels. Now, each class has a set of base stats, which you cannot actually put stat points into your class. A lot of RPG games, when you level up, you get some stat points you can distribute. Orna, Hero of Aethric, is not like that. Every class basically has a set stats, which do go up every time you level up. The reason you can see all of these stats down at the bottom is in red. It's comparing the base stats of the class if you were to switch class. And I'm actually currently a tier 10 class on this character, so obviously if I switch to Warrior, I would lose a heap of base stats. Now, each class, you will also learn skills, and it tells you what level you will learn those skills at. And some classes also have passive abilities. The other thing to note is that pretty much each class gets a set number of skill slots, and you also have preferred weapons. Now, preferred weapons, if you have a weapon, so for example, for Warrior at tier 1 class, preferred weapon is swords. That means if you wear a sword in your main hand, which, just to clarify, in your equipment screen is the left hand, that is your main hand because you can dual wield. If you have a preferred weapon, either from your class or also from your specialization, you will get a 5% bonus to offensive stats. That's both attack and magic. Now, unlocking classes costs orns, which is your number up here. I guess you could say it's slightly like the premium currency in the game. You have gold and you have orns as your main currencies. And once you unlock a class with orns, you can actually switch freely between the classes. So you can see all of these classes I can switch and it doesn't cost any orns. Here's a class which I haven't unlocked yet, which is the tier 4 Mystic class. And you can see it costs 100,000 orns. Now, as you level up through the game, there are, as we said, those three kind of main archetypes, class based on Warrior, Mage, and Thief. There is like class lines, and in order to unlock the next tier class, you kind of need to stay within your class line. So, for example, the tier 2 Knight class requires that you unlock the Warrior class. Paladin is the same. For some reason, Warrior gets 2 classes at tier 2. The Archmage has the Mage class requirement, and the Rogue has the Thief requirement. So those are kind of natural progressions. If we look at tier 3, you can see the required classes are Archmage, Warlock, or Frostmage. Now, Warlock and Frostmage are buyable classes, which I'll come to later on in the video. They're not actually pay to win or anything. Same story here. Let's go up the tiers a little bit. So for example, tier 6 battle mage requires druid or dragoon. So at certain tiers there are, I would say up to kind of tier 6 or tier 7, there are mainly 2 prerequisite classes. So there is some movement or leeway, if you like, for you to decide what class line exactly you want to go down. Tier 6, each class is kind of a mix of warrior or a mix of 2 archetypes. So for example, battle mage is warrior and mage, grand mystic is thief and mage, and then blade master is warrior and thief. Now, once we start getting into the higher tier classes, they also start to have more passive abilities and stronger abilities. Typically what you'll see is there'll be like a generic stat passive increase. A lot of the time in mid-game, you have to charge that. So for example, Archdruid, the tier 7 mage class, requires you to defeat animals of the wild to increase your base stats. And those charge passive skills will last for 36 hours. So every time you kill an animal, that charge lasts for 36 hours. And then you get other things like spells cost less mana, you get life siphon, so very much like that. And then as you get higher into the higher tiers, the passives start to kind of specialize. For example, the warrior titan guard at tier 9, you get ward skill. So ward is automatically activated in battle. Mana is regenerated as ward takes damage. So these are kind of very defensive type passive abilities. And then you have something like the Nyx tier 9 class, where you have attacks deal extra damage against ward, mystic feather, very thief-like passive, where as your health decreases, your chance to dodge increases. So the abilities are only active when you have that class selected. So each class will have its own passive abilities. On the other hand, skills are free to use as long as you've unlocked the skill. So that means you can unlock classes just to get their skills, and then you can use those skills on any other class. For example, the druid, you might have heard this. The druid is like one of the most important classes to unlock in the game, because you get 2 or 3 really important buff skills, such as Mimic's Mischief, which basically gives you double attack and magic up in battle, 50% extra attack and magic damage. Also get Golem's Fortitude, which gives you double up defense and resistance in battle. Again, that's 50% increase to your defense and resistance stats. Then you get Bear's Might and Jin's Talent, which are kind of, specifically greatly boost your attack or magic power. And, okay, Wisp's Heal and Sorrow 2 as well, you can kind of use them. But for the buff skills, Druid is really important. So that's one of the most important things to learn, is that when you unlock a class, you can use those skills on any other class in the future. Now, once you reach tier 7, which is level 150, we start to have a couple more options on the base archetypes of mage, thief, and warrior. So we start to have the Valhallan class line, which is basically your pet or Pokemon class line, and that is with the Dragon Knight class. And you see the passive ability, which is the Valhallan Way. So there are a number of different Valhallan passive skills. Basically, they increase the power of your follower and increase the action rate of your follower. Now, you would typically pair this class up with the Beastmaster spec, which I'll come on to specializations in a moment. Otherwise, at tier 7, you also have access to the Summoner class line, which starts off with the Attuner. And to unlock Attuner, you have to find Horus out in the world, which is actually probably the hardest thing. And then you give him a quest. You have to find Attuner gear, which is found from the arena. Now, Attuners do not have followers. Instead, they have summons. So you get Summon Warg, Summon Dragon, Summon Slime. So you get summon skills, and you basically can power up your summons by giving them buffs, and you're waiting for your summons to do damage. So that's kind of 2 different class lines that we get access to. And then at tier 8, we also get access to the God class lines. Now, your first God class will be dependent on what faction you are. So for example, I'm Earthen Legion, which gives me access to the Gaia class. And you see the required class for the gods are literally any of the main tier 7 classes. So you can kind of specialize into god classes at tier 8, regardless of what you've used until now. And the thing about the god classes is they can wield any piece of equipment that they choose. You can wear magic, thief, warrior, summoner, and Valhalla class type gear. So they're a bit more versatile, but typically they are a bit more general rather than, focus classes. And they end up with the deity class at tier 10. So yeah, at tier 10 you kind of have the specialized classes, and then you have the deity, which is the final god class, which are a bit more generic. If you want to kind of get a handle on what the tier 10 classes are like, I've got kind of showcase videos on those based on Orna, but those are a little bit out of date, so I would kind of ask around in Discord to see what kind of tier 10 class you want to aim for. Now let's talk about specializations. So specializations are like a subclass, but unlike classes, you have to pay orns every time you want to switch. And I'd say the most important thing for new players is your first specialization is free. So I would recommend waiting until tier 5 to pick your first specialization. You can get it at tier 3, and the story quest line does ask you to get it, but I would honestly recommend waiting until level 100, which is tier 5, because it saves you basically 25,000 orns, first of all, because it's free, and they are much stronger. The Berserker spec, for example, not usually require level 100. The percent stat changes only modifies your base stats. It doesn't apply like 10% damage, like a 10% damage buff to everything, including gear. That is just to your base stats. And the skills that you can learn while you are a specialization, you will only be able to use these skills when you are that spec. So the Berserker, the main thing about Berserker is you get Berserk buff, which gives you a 50% damage bonus in battle, but it causes a 5% damage over time debuff against you. If I switched from Berserker to Guardian, I would no longer have access to the Berserk buff. So bear that in mind. And some specs have certain abilities. For example, Pikeman, you automatically get a couple of war turns when you start battle. The Duelist is also a good tier 5 class spec. You get 15% offensive stat bonus when you dual wield. The skills are not great though. So specializations, you can also get access to preferred weapon bonus. They do not stack with class preferred weapon bonus. You either get the preferred weapon bonus from your class or your specialization, and it's only a one-time 5% bonus. It doesn't stack twice. Skills are kept only while you are active on that spec, and it's the same with abilities, and it costs orns each time. So basically you get access to specs at tier 3, new specs every 2 tiers, and I guess the class line which really relies on specs the most is the Valhallan class line, the pet line. When you start to get access to Beastmaster at tier 7, the Beastmaster passive, it again increases your follower action rate and power. These stat increases to your follower are added to the bonuses from Valhallan class lines. You can check the numbers on that on Discord. People will have the bonuses there. But essentially, when you pair up Beastmaster at tier 7 or tier 9 Tamer spec with a Valhallan class line, your pet becomes like an absolute god, and you don't even need really good gear. That's why they are kind of overpowered for leveling early on when good gear is not available very much. I'll recommend a couple of specs for AoE. So the Bard gives you access to Mage's Dance, which is an AoE for mages, which does elementalist damage. Really nice for horde dungeons. Also at tier 7, you get Ranger, which has Arrow Storm 2. Okay, the Hunter spec also has Arrow Storm, but I would recommend, for attack-based builds, I recommend the Zweivenser, because you get access to Sweep, which is a much better skill for dealing AoE damage. So that is essentially classes, specs, skills in one video. If you have any questions, of course, put your comment below. We'll be more than happy to get around to that at certain points. I hope this video was useful. I want to thank all the Arisen Orna Legends for supporting myself on this channel, and that really helps me keep making the content. We got a whole Aethric beginner guide series coming out, so if you've got anything in particular you want me to make a video on, please drop a comment and I'll do my best to get around to it. I'm Shabash. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Ciao.